Yeah, like most of the lectures, you know, like for me this year, is the first year lah that I'm taking on the main supervisor role for FYP. Yeah, we just ended the apa tu presentation yesterday. Wow, it was, you know, 2 long days. And the preparation for that took how many weeks, you know. So so sorry if I talking quite slow, you know, quite still a bit tired from yesterday. Anywho, we have 86 people. Let's wait for 2 more minutes lah. I have a question or kind of like a poll. I want to ask you guys for next week on Monday. Do you guys actually next week Monday we're supposed to talk about shrimp aquaculture, but the thing is shrimp aquaculture is not my forte. So I mean I can talk theoretically to you guys, but I do not know if I will be able to you know, give or impart all the things that you want to know. So I was thinking for that 3 hours next week, instead of me talking, I do not know if you guys want to have a like a presentation type, or you guys just want to do a poster type. So that poster, at least when you guys do that poster, you guys can learn more independently, because talking about shrimp aquaculture for 3 hours, somebody like me who is not you know, the best to talk about it, um yeah, I think self-learning would be better. But of course you have my slides and you guys can refer to that. Those are the things that I've read from journals and literatures and so on, and also from FAO and some information from my predecessor, Pro Sharif. So Pro Sharif's field is shrimp, so that's why shrimp is included in the syllabus. Unfortunately, I only did my work in fish, so I did learn a little bit about shrimp with him. One of the things that is some of the things that are important for shrimp aquaculture is you know, the use of probiotics, and also Pro Sharif previously he talked about a lot about that, you know, and he has a lot of pictures about the farms that he has visited and all that, and I do not because I only went to, I think, 2 shrimp farms throughout my PhD time, because of course it's not my, you know, my work. So I do not know. Can somebody tell me what do you guys want to do? You want to do a PowerPoint type of thing, or do you guys want to do a poster? So I'll give you I'll we will talk a little bit maybe, and then what to do, and I'll give some guidelines, and then you guys can go on and do it throughout that 3 hours, and then at the end I'll give half an hour for you guys to, you know, submit, or you know, if you want to present, you can present. But presentation 19 groups, wow, you know, that would take some time. Maybe I'll pick maybe I'll pick maybe 6 groups so that you guys can present or something like that. So what do you guys want? Presentation PowerPoint or poster type thing? Afika nak buat apa?
uh, I think poster would be easier.
Kan?
kalau nak buat presentation, instead of divide by group, you could just pick different parts of
Individual.
the shrimp anatomy, the
Correct.
aquaculture, and then you can
Give it
suruh
to
random group present.
Tapi kalau macam tu I takut orang tak learn all of it, you know. I think that would work. Okay, yeah, I think that would be one of the ways to do it. Eventually you guys have my lecture notes, so that is quite self-explanatory. You guys can read it. Yeah, I think that would be okay. So I'll give, we'll do poster type. I'll see how many topics that we can do. I mean, subtopics that we can do about shrimp aquaculture. And then I'll assign it to the groups, right? So that will be maybe a few groups get one same topic if there are too many of the groups. If not, I do not think each group will get different topics. So we'll try to do that lah. I will think about it. I'll give the instructions to Farha, right? Farha. I'll give the instructions to you later. Yeah. Okay, so the sources that you can use would include selalunya go for, I mean, Googling is alright, but if you want to Google it, take from FAO or maybe shrimp culture farms yang sometimes they come up with a manual or guideline to do it. Oh, sorry, my daughter is at home. So you might hear her cry again. Okay, okay lah, so I'll do it like that. I'll brief you guys on Monday. Yeah, that's it. All right, because I think that if I give a lecture, not for the third week, or not another lecture for Amali for the third week, I think it's too much. You know, you guys can participate and work on it. Okay, I think I've told Afika that aquaculture is not my, I mean systems not my forte. So that's why I try to explain it as much as possible to my understanding. I hope that it will help you somehow in the future, and yeah. Okay, any question before I go on? Okay, kalau tak ada, I will proceed. Sign the attendance in the link provided. And okay, today we will talk about site selection for fish ponds. Okay, why are we going to talk about this? All right, firstly, if farmers they want to, all right, so kind of like new farmers, or they are new in the business. Okay, they want to ask you about your opinion on where should I have, or where should I build my farm, and what are some of the basic criteria. Because if the farm is not planned properly, all right, the soil, the water sources are not right, or are not optimum for the culture of the type of species of fish or shrimp, in fact, then it will not be sustainable. The farm will not be able to produce, and the water quality will be poor, and of course with all of that, diseases will come. So it is very important to know where to build or to select your site. All right, this is just some example of if you want to have a system. All right, generally we have four. Okay, the conventional pond systems. Okay, these are just the typical pond that you see by the roadsides. integration aquaculture into other systems. All right, so they are not only one system, all right, and it can be multiple systems. Recirculation systems, I've mentioned before, RAS system, right? I've told you about the tilapia farm that we went to, which had very poor water quality. That could only mean that either the filtration system is not working, which also would, you want to think about the good bacteria that are supposed to be there in the filtration system but are not. This type of system, the circulation system, actually uses the same water. So they do pump in a new batch of water, but they circulate the waters. Yeah, they use the water again, but undergoes filtration system, sterilization, and so on. And then I've talked about fish cage systems. So it can be inshore or offshore. Okay, I will show you some of the pictures. Um, so inshore are those farms that we see near the coastline, usually offshore. I do not know we have in Malaysia or not. Probably we do, but I do not know of. So this is usually done offshore. Is usually done for salmon and those type of fish. Okay. This is just another type of conventional pond system. Okay, you can see they do have some pipes where water can flow in and out. Usually, it's kind of done in a slope, right? So water source from the higher ground, all right, from the hillside or whatever. So they use the gravity to get the water into the pond, and this pond is also lined with a tub. Okay, they call it a tub. So why? I will explain later why some ponds have this tub, while others just use the normal earthen pond, we call it. This is an example of integrated fish farm and rice farming. This is quite typical in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, right? So we have small fishes. I think these are koi's or carps or something like that. Or could be tilapia as well. So it benefits. So they have kind of like they can get produce not only rice but also fish, and somehow the fish waste will also fertilizes the plants, right? So it's kind of like the basis of why they do RAS system, but in this type of system is not a recirculation, right? And then with this kind of open type of system, other factors can affect the water quality and so on. So these are just they do it because they have extra resources lah, all right, not because they want to culture fish, but because it adds in to the system. So this is an example of RAS. So this is, and of course indoor lah. Usually RAS system is indoor, or partially indoor, outdoor. Sometimes it's not necessarily in a closed kind of like facility. Sometimes half of it are open, doesn't matter. But what matters is that the recirculation system of the water, right? What are the components of RAS system, right? So this is quite a big farm, right? So I'll talk about what are the things for RAS system. So when we talk about RAS system, it's recirculation of the water. Okay, we have different components, but these are some of the basic components, which are fish tanks. All right, definitely fish tanks, right? Mechanical filter, I've talked about this before. So it can composed of different layers of gravels or stones, right? So from fine or kind of that sand, right? So layers of sand, and then gravel and larger stones lah. All right, so it can filter out physical waste from the fish. And then biofilter, I've showed you the bio balls and the white apa tu ceramic stones or something like that. And then we do have those white corals as houses for your good bacteria. So these good bacteria will convert your nitrogenous waste, ammonia, which is very toxic to the fish. So we have a physical filter, and now we have a biological filter. Degasser is usually to release some of the gases produced from conversion of ammonia to the nitrite and nitrates. And then we have oxygen enrichment, right? And UV disinfection. UV disinfection for smaller scale, we have rods. Okay, so imagine your apa lampu yang dekat tu, apa lampu yang panjang tu apa bagi? Um, those it escapes my mind. So those long rods of like cartridges kind, something like that. So sorry, it escapes my mind. Always do in the morning. So we have multiple for smaller scale lah, because I've seen a smaller scale. We have multiple rods of UV light rods, okay, which are put into, so if there are multiple, they're put into a canister, something like that, and the water flows through. But it should be an enclosed lah, because UV light is prolonged exposure to humans are not good, right? So those rods of UV lights, water pass through them, right, as a final stage before it flows back into your fish tanks. So it undergoes mechanical, physical filtration, biological filtration, gas are being released, it enriched with oxygen, and then finally disinfected from usually we talk about pathogens lah, right? So we do not want any pathogens to go back into your fish tanks. Hard to explain cages, but these are some of the types lah. FAO cakap it has round, square and long, but I've only seen long and square cages. Round probably in smaller scale farm. So for aquaculture farm, we have small, medium and large scales. I would assume that this type of cages are only used for small and maybe just small scale farm. Medium and large scale farm have already moved on to the net type of cages. Right, so usually if you go to islands, you would see these floating small houses. Actually, these are to store feed and also some of the materials that you need for fish culturing. Right, usually it's to store feed. So wooden panels, some floating barrels, and you have nets here where different groups of fish are inside. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same species of fish. For grouper fish, I know that they also culture milkfish together, and not necessarily the same weight or length, which means the same age of fish are being cultured at the same time. Usually there are different batches. So when one area is harvested, right, they bring in a new batch of fingerlings in. So I think most or some of the farm in Malaysia do not practice the type of thing with chickens, right? They one week, not 1 week, one week, what is it? Like one batch only at the same time. After all harvested, you bring in, you clean the area, disinfect, and so on, and then prepare them for the next batch. Yeah, all in, all out system. All right, thank you. For fish, for those small and medium, and the fish farms that I've went to, cages, yeah, we're talking about cages. No, they are usually different sizes lah. But unless they are, you know, those type of farms that are only broodstock or only grow up, only nursery, then probably lah. But these are, we're talking about grow out cages. These are the example. Oh, sorry, the gambar. You know, when I'm in the office, the internet, you know, is testing my patience. So sometimes when I'm doing this in the office, I just put it in. You know, I'm not gonna wait for the internet to get better. So these are the offshore farm. You can see this, you know, if you see the advertisement for fish and Sushi King, you know, those type of company, you see they kind of promote or put these pictures of an offshore cages. So you need to remember with this type of cage system, you usually leave the cages there. You know, nobody is going to monitor it 24 hours. All right. So every day, as boat, you know, the workers will go on the boat, and then they will give feed and so on, and then monitor the fish. But somehow you can only monitor it from the surface, right? Unless you have divers to go in and check for, I mean, they do it, you know, divers go in and check for damages on the apa tu, nettings and so on. So I've discussed about the use of Internet of Things. So farmers now have become more, they have realized that it is very important to monitor the fish throughout the system. And so they have already used those type of things lah to be able to monitor the fish. Sekejap, Afika cakap apa tadi? Sorry. What was your question? Somebody asked a question, but I missed it. Alright, I'll go back to that later. I missed it, or else I have to go back. Let me see. No filtration system, so they totally rely on, you know, the open ocean water. So that is why they do monitoring of they still do monitor the water quality, right? And I think it is more stringent because they cannot control the water quality. So and some farms have you know, those things that I talked about, a built-in water monitoring probes and system that feeds back the information to them in their farms. So if these cages are, before they put those cages there, all right, they choose or select the site, which I will discuss on the last on my last slide. So they pull these cages by boat, right, from inshore to offshore. So they placed the cages there, right? We have selected the site. So climate and weather are some of the things that play major effect on the culture of offshore cages. All right. Imagine, you know, strong current or strong wind coming, you know, although these cages are quite heavy, but I'm sure somehow, you know, it would play in effect towards the fish. And predators can come and place damages on the nets. So they do need to monitor nets for damages. So, or else, you know, if nobody monitors these cages and there are damages on the nets, so at the end of the harvest, oh, you do not have any more fish in the net. How unfortunate. All right. Site selection is crucial so that it determines the success or the failure of the project or the fish farm. Okay. So I'm going to talk about generally 5 factors, which are water quality, water quantity and quality, the soil types, the topography, and also access to market. So as much as I can explain it, I'll try to explain it, all right? So water quality, very important because fish, lives in the water, right? So if you do not have the source of water is not available all year round, then that site is not suitable, okay? Good quality, it needs the origin of the water, you need to find out, inspect. Are there any other contaminations, right? So they should be clear from rubbish or away, from industries or agricultural land, because we're worried about contamination from pesticides and waste into our water. So if that happens by the time that you have built, that place should not be suitable for fish. Okay, so these are just examples of sources of water. Rain, so you worry about if you are only relying on rain. So what happens during the drought season when it is dry? So think about what are other sources of water if you're only relying on rain. Okay, river and stream, common irrigation canal and dam. So these types of sources of water have constant supply, but with that there are also potential of pollution and or pathogens. Okay, because I do not know the sources have been polluted. And spring or well, so these are generally clean from pollution and pathogen, but the cost of pumping your water to the pond would need to be included right into the cost. And for cages, not for cages, for ponds that you have near coastals and you build your pond for brackish water, brackish species. So sometimes they rely on high tide to fill in the water into their ponds. That is also another source, all right? So sources of water I've mentioned before, rain, stream, rivers, well, and so on. So this picture is from FAO. So it kind of like really good to explain to you some of the things that you need to think about for water sources, okay? If the water is near industrial areas or factories, all right? So you think about discharge water waste, which will contaminate your water source, all right? Roads or bridges will increase silt. So silt is a type of mixture of soil and sand, right? You do not want too much of a mixture of soil, sand and clay, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so you do not want too much of that. You usually want a clay type of soil. So we'll go through that later on. All right, so if it's near where people plant their crops, think about the quality of the runoffs. Okay, construction, then if the construction sites are curing concrete, so that's another thing that you want to think about. And then gravel work, interception ditches, then you think about pesticide runoff, right? And then you want to avoid wind drift, because if there are agricultural sites where they spray their pesticides, then with wind that will take the pesticides near your or into your fish ponds. So that's not good either. And then you want to think about gases again from factories, which will bring these exhaust gases by rainwater into your ponds. And so this one is for crops, right? So plowing will increase erosion and goes into your water source. Water quantity, well, I can only tell you that you need to estimate the water needed by calculating the surface area and depth. Easier said than done. So usually there's a what do you call somebody that you can ask or advise the farmers on where how to do this. You know, I can only explain and tell you here, but if you ask me, have I ever done this before? Not for water, not for to calculate water need for fish pond or in area for fish pond, but definitely calculation of water quality for drugs, yeah, I can do it, but not for ponds, you know, because I've never done this before. So what I can do is I can tell you and I can explain it to you. All right. So when you do this, when you calculate this, FAO has a very good site that you can see a very long explanation on how to calculate or estimate the water that is needed for your fish pond. It also included calculations of losses due to seepage and evaporation. All right, so these are natural, right? So water would be lost by these ways. So daily losses ranges depending on soil type and climate. All right, and then when you want to calculate the water quantity, also think about your plan to expand your fish farm, all right, in the future. Again, you know, evaporation, think about when the surrounding temperature is high and then there are, you know, winds. So the surface of the water surface, you know, will be lost due to evaporation. Right? Not only evaporation, but also seepage. Okay, so if the type of soil that you use cannot hold water, for you to have that fish ponds, you know, water will be lost due to seepage, and it will be a waste, you know, for you to. How will you have a fish pond if water is lost? There are calculations of how many you know, daily losses, but if it's too much, then probably the site is not good or the soil type is not good, right? Okay, the soil quality, usually you would avoid sites with this type of rocks, right? Gravel bed, sandstone and limestone. You do not want sandy soils because this type of soil are porous, so you would lose a lot of, you will lose water, you will not be able to hold the water. The type of soil that we want, all right, are clay type. So it's either a mixture of sand and clay. So sandy clay, silt and clay loam. All right, this loam just means a mixture, right? So silt and clay, just clay loam lah, clay with clay water. So why? Because of its ability to hold water for your fish pond. Acidic soil is not suitable, so you need to also examine the pH of the water. Okay. Why acidic soil is not important? We'll talk about it later when we talk about the importance of drying and liming. Okay. So all right. So I've talked about sand, silt, and clay. So sand, look at the texture or the particle size. You know, it's big and it's bigger compared to silt and clay, right? So whenever it's mixed with water, it will not be able to hold the water for your fish pond, right? Silt is like this, and then clay, very fine particle size. So you would want more of a clay type and also silt type. Topography is important because you would want to think about gravity when you want to fill in your water, and then for you to have a way to discharge your water correct way. Okay, so water drainage will be possible by gravity if you choose the right side. All right. So earthwork will be minimum. So when you want to dig up the soil, right, to create the pond, it will be less work, and therefore it's easy to balance the volume of earth to be excavated and to be filled in. Well, some technical thing is that the slope should be 0.5 to 3%. Somebody who works with topography would know this better than me. So as it would drain properly, so that slope, right, needs to be around this range. Low-lying land is suitable. So if it's near the lower side of the area, it will be suitable so that, you know, water can flow gravity down. But if it's hilly undulating land, so it's at the, you know, higher up areas, it would not be suitable. Okay. All right. Why? Again, you need to think about topography so that the water from your source water, right, can fill in the pond. And then when you create a drainage, you will be able to drain by gravity. If this is not possible, we need to think about a pumping system that will be able to do this work, you know, by pumping lah kan. And with that, additional costs would be incurred. So most of the small, medium scale farms would definitely want to rely on gravity, but it is always better to have a pumping system where you can pump in your water sources. In case if your original plan or the original water source, you could not get it, no, or it's not available. Let's talk about this. So those are some of the things about where or what type of soil to choose and so on. So this is a general thing when we talk about designing of a fish farm. Based on the phases of the aquaculture. Some ponds would want to have or fish of different stages. So they can have rootstock, hatchery, nursing, grow out, and quarantine. So some of this can be done in a pond type of system, right? Some can only be done indoor, like for broodstock. Usually it's done you know, broodstock are expensive, so probably not in ponds. Grow out, yes, can be done in ponds. Quarantine, probably if they are not shared water system, it has its own water sources and, you know, drainage, then you think about, yeah, maybe it can be done, but depends on the fish species. All right. Okay. This is a previous apa tu picture or that I've talked about. So basically, we talk about the pond system. So besides where it is, also you need to think about what are you going to culture in your ponds. Usually for ponds, it's a grow out stages or a fingerling stage. And with that, you need to think about water and waste treatment and how are the fish, how will the fish be harvested and processed later on. And, you know, these are just a general thing that you want to think about. So when you want to, all right, when you want to dig up the ponds, the depth should be able, it should be able to hold water from 1 meter to 1.5 meter. So the depth. right? If it's too shallow, it's not suitable. If it's too deep, then you want to think about how will you be able to maintain or maintain the water quality and apa tu check on the fishes. So ponds with greater depth will make it difficult to manage. If too shallow, the water temperature is not stable. Okay. Pond bottom, I'll show you a picture later. You know, if I talk, just talk. You know, you probably cannot imagine. Pond bottom, the sloping and water outlet more than 15 to 30 centimeter lower than the inlet. So if it's a slope, right? So where the water goes out should be lower than the inlet, right? Makes sense, right? All right, just an example. Okay, what I've said before, the pond bottom should be sloping, all right, so that you can properly drain the water. Dike, or in Malaysia you call it, bahasa you call it macam batas, right? So you would want this naturally hold your water. Shallow and inner dike slope, so the inner end of the dike, right, is shallower. These are just some of the things, deep and the inner toe are very technical, right? Okay, so basically one of the things that I just want to highlight is the pond bottom slope. Okay, so that it is easy to maintain and for outlets of your water drainage. Just an example, all right, type of soil will determine whether your location is suitable or not. So we would always want to look for the clay loam or the silt clay loam, right? The earlier pictures I've showed you are ponds that are layered without. Okay, these are done because if the soil, right, type of soil is not suitable, then it will be able to reduce the water seepage, right? And for easier of maintenance, okay? So this all depends on the type of soil. So if the site, like other factors are, you know, check all the boxes, but the type of soil is not really suitable, then this is one of the things that you can think about, you know, to overcome the challenge of the soil quality that is not optimum for fish pond. We do have also, this is just another picture of the previous picture that I've shown before. So this is actually from FAO. So parts of a fish pond, so you have a dike, so inside slope, right, is so that, you know, the water can flows out through the monk. Monk ni macam an outlet for the water to go out lah, okay? And then your water supply comes from the higher part. So by gravity, this if you're talking about just by gravity, then this could be one of the layout for your farm, for the farm, all right? So once you have excavated your pond, thought about the sloping, the soil quality, either you need to add in a pumping system, calculated the water needed, and included in water losses due to evaporation and seepage and everything that we have mentioned. Before you put in your fish, so you need to prepare the pond first, okay? So two things, drying and liming, and also fertilization of water, okay? Okay, why do we need to dry the pond? Okay, if the system, your pond already has a fish or a batch before, so you can dry, or even a new batch of fish, a new farm. So you need to dry your pond first, all right, for around 1 week. Why? Because it is to kill wild fish, snails, parasites, which carries all these while animals carry parasites, bacteria, and viruses. Okay, you do not want that for your fish. Before drying, you would want to remove silt from pond bottom. Okay, this is if previously you already cultured a batch of fish. So after you dry the water out, you need to remove the silt. The silt is at the bottom. It's a mixture of soil and waste from the fish. Remove that and then dry the pond, let it dry for 1 week. Okay, and then you lime the pond, the bottom of the pond. Okay, why do we need to lime the bottom of the pond? Three things. Okay, liming increases the availability of the nutrients. So we mentioned before, if acidic soils are not good, okay, so if it is acidic from a previous batch of culturing, so it would increase the pH and buffer against daily pH fluctuations. And then it also function as to sterilize the pond before you stock your pond, okay? So these are examples of drying. And also, can anybody tell me what are these holes at the bottom of the pond? It is very typical of a type of species of fish. Can anybody tell me? What are these holes? No, you see, many holes. What are these holes? Can anybody guess? No, it's not a mud slipper. This is a fish pond, okay? A freshwater fish. Anybody have any idea? Okay. No, it's not snails. These are nests created by tilapia. So depending on the species, the female will create these nests for them to lay their eggs and then to be fertilized by the male. And then depending on the species also, some species, the male brood the fries in the mouth. Some species, the females brood lah, but usually I've seen, excuse me, I've seen males brood the fries. So these are when they culture the fish, the females create this right at the bottom of the pond for them to spawn. Okay, so these are natural. So it's not something extraordinary or anything. Alamak, I should have created something so that it's better to see. Okay. So the types of lime. Okay. There are 3 types. Okay. So firstly is calcium carbonate, calcium hydroxide, and calcium oxide. If you look at the common name, all right, on the bags, all right, so it can be called different names. It can be called calcium carbonate, can be also known as limestone, dolomite, mari, or these are the other names. The toxicity for the fish is low, price is also low, but the effectiveness is low and slow. Okay, and it is preferred. So if you monitor the pH, all right, so it's preferred with water pH above 4.5, and because the toxicity is low, It doesn't matter if the fish are present, right? But the effectiveness is low and slow. Okay, for calcium hydroxide, also known as slack lime or hydrated lime, toxicity medium, price medium, effectiveness medium. So since the toxicity is medium, you wouldn't want to take a risk. You would do it without fish present in the pond lah. Calcium oxide, or also known as I really find they write it as burn lime, right? Or quick lime. High toxicity, price is high because its effectiveness is high and fast, right? Preferred with drain pond and also can be used for pest control of small snails. Okay, just pictures. Wow, it's a bit, it's a bit. All right, so these are some of the pictures. Okay, these are quick lime, hydrated lime. Ni apa Sekejap. Calcium carbonate. Okay, calcium carbonate. So generally looks like this lah. Okay. So if the toxicity is low, you can have you can put in the lime when the water is present or the fish is present. Tapi this is not a fish pond lah, just an example picture. Not a fish pond. Wow, what is this? Probably a pond or lake. or a lake lah, sorry, not a pond, a lake. Okay. Okay, next, after you've dried, you have lime, need to fertilize the water. Okay, why do we need to fertilize the water? Okay, because we want to have natural food, or like phytoplankton, zooplanktons, natural food for the fish. All right, plus it is good for the water quality as well. So fertilization will help to maintain the water at optimum condition. So it will be slight greenish color, and you would want to add fertilizer constantly during the culture period. Depends. They measure it with a sachet disc, or some farmers just immerse their hand in the water. So experienced farmers will be able to tell whether their water need to be fertilized or not. Okay. You can fertilize if the water color, there's a calculation for such a disc, or it is also not good to over fertilize. Okay. This is how they calculate it. I'm not gonna tell you, but basically they immerse such this until they cannot see it anymore, and then they lift it back up again, right? And then they kind of measure the distance. So this distance will be used. There's a chart that tells you if the distance is how much you need to fertilize or not. Okay, you can read this. If I read it one by one, I know I'm gonna bore you to death. All right. So this uncle or this farmer is using a sachet disc. All right. So this is how it looks like. I've never done this before, but I've seen people do it. And yeah, I see that farmers use the arm method as well. So you can see he's immersing it in the water. So you need to immerse it until you cannot see the disc anymore. And then you lift it back up again until you can slightly see. And then you take your measurement. Okay, this one is a rope type. Okay, so previously it's a bar type. So this is a rope type. Okay. Actually, this transparency. So when you measure that, right? So that measurement, you refer to this table. So if it is less than how much does not need to be fertilized. If it is around this, then you need to routinely fertilize. Okay, but with if you do not need to fertilize, you need to closely monitor the fish, because the water is like the water is probably has too much, right, of the live feed. So you need to monitor your fish for signs of oxygen depletion, because these live feeds also or you know, you would think about algae growth, so they would consume oxygen as well. So at certain time of the day, example is dawn and dusk, right? The oxygen consumption for the fish is also same with the plants, aquatic plants, right? So you would want to monitor this fish. So in case of oxygen depletion, you would need to add in extra aeration, or if it's in a pond, a water paddle, okay? So it's a water paddle to increase the movement of the water, to increase the oxygen. All right. So if this happens, so you can increase the water inflow. So you can add in water so that you would want to improve the oxygen water. Okay. I've mentioned this before. The reason why we want to fertilize the water is to enrich the water with natural food, for example, phytoplankton or zooplankton. Okay, how do we do that? Usually for agriculture or aquaculture, we have mineral or inorganic. It's usually a phosphate type of fertilizer. So they have triple or double superphosphate, they call it. So at the rate of 17 to 22 kilos per month. So Prof. Sharif, you know, discussed this, that it can be done. So you put in, it comes in bags, right? So you punch holes in the bags, you tie it to a pole, and it, I mean, like it's near the pond, right? So the fertilizers can slowly seep into the water. Or instead of this commercial type of mineral fertilizers, you can also use organic fertilizers, which are waste from the agriculture industry at the rate of 1.2 kilo of dry matter per 100 meters square per day. So some farmers dry their own or get their own organic waste from a supplier that they know, or there are commercially available type of organic waste, but do not think that it is as easily available as triple superphosphate or double superphosphate, right? So they come in these bags, and they look like this. So they are grayish or black granules. All right. I'm almost up to a few last slides. These are just examples of organic fertilizers that we can use. Mostly we use organic manures from chicken or cattle farm. Okay. I'm not sure about slaughterhouse waste in Malaysia, but we do have agro-industrial waste and also natural vegetation and compost. Okay. All right, this shows when you fertilize the water, okay, you would enrich it for phytoplankton, and mineral and organics. All right, so exchange of nutrients with the soil and release of nutrients and production cycles or production cycle. Okay. I've mentioned about pond. I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about cage culture. For cage culture, the cages are usually in a large water body or ex-mining pools, lakes, and also near the coast waterline. Usually we want to avoid strong water currents, okay, or else the cages would be detached and you would lose your cages. So before you want to have your cages, you would want to check for the dissolved oxygen level. So it should be more than 5 ppm. You can check it with the probe, right? And your water depth is sufficient for fish. If the cages are 3 by 3, then you want to think about the water depth should be definitely more than that, right? If it's near a coastal lah, especially. Okay, last slide. It's only 10 o'clock, huh? Actually, this slide, I just want to show you the examples of where you would want to do inshore or near shore cages and offshore cages. All right. So for this, okay, you can look. So they have mangrove area. So when it is too near to the coast, it is not deep enough. Okay. So for ideally lah, we would not want in fast current, not too fast, right? Fast current and deep water because we do not have a filtration system. So that is why they say fast current. Okay. So the water exchange will be, or the water quality can be maintained well. And then also the depth is 100 feet or more. All right. And then the space between the farms will be appropriate. So you would not want a transfer of diseases or pathogens, right? And then for offshore cage farming, right? The reason why some people opt for an offshore cages, they say it is to minimize impacts to seafloor and fishing communities. Because currently, if you go to any, I do not know, but when I went to some of the fish farms, and if, see the fish farms have been there for some time, and then housing or residential area creeps into the near the fish farm, right? So if you ask them, they will say, right, 5-10 years ago, the nearest residential area was, I don't know, half an hour, 1 hour away, 40, 50, 30, 40, 50 kilometers away. But recently, or these 2-3 years, the residential area, they are nearer to the farms, and they would complain that the water sources has an odor, or their water sources are polluted. So this is some factors that some of the farmers need to think about now. But you see, if you look at the coastline where there are cages, right, inshore, near shore cages, there are multiple farms, right? So each of the farm, how are we to tell that they are producing sustainably, and which farms are or is responsible for polluting the water, or are not a responsible, does not practice responsible farming. So one of the ways, or one of the solutions suggested is an offshore cages. Okay. So And also some of the farms near shore cages or inshore cages are near to where the fishing areas are. Okay, so there are conflicts of between the fish farmers and the fishermen. So, offshore cages are one of the solutions that they can, we can look into. Okay, so with an offshore cage farming system, the depth is almost similar, but it is further away from where the major fishing sites are, and also from coral reef areas. Okay. Let us just look into this picture. So for inshore cages, so it will be here. Okay. See, there's a village nearby. Because this is always an issue with not just aquaculture, with agriculture as well. These farms have been there for years before the residential area comes in. So there are certain conflicts that needs to be addressed. But regardless if a farm practices good management, good practices, good aquaculture practices, then I'm sure these issues can be resolved. Not easy, involves it's a departmental issues and policies, and certainly without these fish farms, our food security will be affected. So we need to think about that and find a solution in between that will benefit both the villagers and also the farmers. Okay. So coral reef area should be avoided, and then further from that would be your offshore cage farming. Okay. I will look into the. I forgot to record. Oh, I'm so sorry. Never mind. So Afika asked if offshore fish gets infected, does the entire tank becomes vulnerable? Definitely. So that's why I've mentioned the importance of monitoring the fish. All right. Some farmers have cameras installed for them to monitor the fish for any signs of stress or diseases. Others have divers to physically check the fish offshore. So any signs of stress or diseases would warrant intervention, if necessary, treatment. So treatment is tricky. If it needs to be done to the entire pen or the entire cage, they would separate that out, take it by boat to their facility or their farm and treat it there. All right. So that's how it's done. Any other question? I'm so sorry, I forgot to record. It's been a very long week for me. Monday I have class, and also meetings back after meetings in preparation for the final year projects. And then Wednesday is the first day of the presentation, and then in the afternoon another like mock presentation with my FYP students. And then on Wednesday morning I have to take students for rotation. So come back and then have the meeting, and then I actually took my daughter to rotation. So can you imagine? It's a challenge. And then yeah, yesterday I sat throughout the entire presentation. I was the examiner for the evening portion of one group. And yeah, today is the morning class. So I'm glad that it's Monday. Apa? Sekejap, ada soalan. What is the example of negative social impact at the major fishing area? Negative social impact. How so? I'm sorry, I cannot understand this question. Negative social impact. You mean, do you mean with, as I mentioned before, with the villages and the residential residents? Do you mean that, or in terms of negative social impact? Amar, what do you mean?
Dekat dalam last slide doktor tu ada tulis if aquaculture
Last slide. Is it the picture?
dekat last slide. The
Okay.
picture.
Aquaculture. Wait.
Yang agriculture in a major fishing area would have a negative social impact.
Oh, kat bawah ni. Okay. Aquaculture in major fishing area would have a negative social impact. I think from the perspective of this is talking about the perspective of farmers and also fishermen. So there are conflicts where if aquaculture exceeds or gets into the major fishing area, it would impact or it would somehow affect the wild fish in the area, either the any treatment or anything that is being done in the aquaculture farm would harm or would affect the catch by the fishermen. So I would imagine the social impact is in the terms of aquaculture farms or businesses and the conflicts with those fishermen. So I hope that would explain it.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Kejap, kita discuss next week so that kejap let me open my slide and see what will be the topics. Malay shrimp culture. Sekejap, let me share my screen. The reason why is because I don't have a lot of pictures. So if I talk, it will be so boring. Okay, I think the first subtopics, can somebody write? Farha and Afika, korang tulislah. I think the first subtopic will be the difference between shrimp or prawn. Okay. Shrimp or prawn, and also the difference in terms of anatomy lah. Okay, we do it like that. The anatomy. Actually ada gambar. Okay, so these are the shrimps. This is a shrimp, this is a prawn. Okay, so what is the difference? Right? I would prefer you to explain it with pictures. Okay, so have two pictures side by side and then do it like that. And also maybe another topic could be shrimp culture in Malaysia. And in there you could explain why or look at the history why the major culture species now is Banami and not Monodon. Okay, so that is one, two, right? Okay, two subtopics. Okay, another group or another topic would be the production cycle of a shrimp farm. So you can definitely use this this diagram. If you see a diagram like this, know that it is from FAO. It's very pathognomonic of FAO. So that's three topics. Okay, especially for another subtopic would be the reproduction, and I want that group to talk about eye stalk ablation. Very important, eye stalk ablation. Afika, are you writing or not? Okay. Farah, are you around in case?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay. Okay, eye stalk ablation. Actually, my predecessor talked about, okay, when you want to breed the shrimp kan, you do this to the female, you cut one of the eye stalk so that, you know why? Okay, you know, that group needs to answer this. How and why? And I've always wonder, I do not know as a mother or what, right? It is absolutely horrific, very cruel. I've always think about this, but I do not know. Maybe Prof. Sharif has been, looking at it for how long. Maybe he thinks it's important or it is common. But I think it's horrible. That's my point of view. I think it's horrible. And are there any ways, other ways to not do this? So that group that you talk about, eye stalk patient, think about or find out about what are the other ways that we can do instead of eye stalk ablation. All right, so that's talk about the eye organ, right? X organ. I think I would give you this slide as well, but I need to edit this. It is very raw. So, all right. So talk about the welfare concerns and what are the recent research that are being done or currently ongoing that would remove the need to perform eye stalk ablation. Ini actually, see, it's not good. I'm so sorry. Actually, part of this kan. So that diagram is more detailed from a book actually, but it's an old book. So it's not so many, all right? So if you have just this diagram, it will be sufficient. Okay, so that group talking about production cycle, just briefly, this briefly describe the steps lah, okay? So this is what I said before. One group should talk about why the industry is being dominated previously by Monodon, but it is currently being dominated, or the major species is Banami or the white leg shrimp. Actually, the reason is because of an outbreak of a disease. Okay, so what is that disease? Find out about it. And actually, Prof. Sharif is very involved in producing it's a nested PCR step for diagnosis of white shrimp apa tu white spot disease in shrimp. So if you have uh, a read about that, you can include it. I do not know. Do we want to talk about production? I actually have a few I think I have a CD given to me by Prof. Sharif about shrimp aquaculture, but I do not know if I can. I don't have a CD-ROM, so if I can find it, I will give it to you guys. If not, these three links I will provide, and they would be sufficient to cover whatever that the content of the CD has. Okay, no worries. I will give this to you, but I need to revamp the slides. Okay, one group or another subgroup, please talk about the challenges in shrimp culture. So for things, maybe one group can take one. We'll see how many topics we have. You guys want to? Yeah.
So, sekejap ya doktor.
Sekarang ada berapa dah? Sekarang ada berapa?
Macam ada 6 topik. Sekejap.
6
So, number 1, differences in anatomy. Number 2 is shrimp culture in Malaysia, history, and major current cultured species. 3, production cycle.
Right.
4, reproduction.
Right.
5, welfare concerns. And 6, challenges in shrimp culture.
Sekejap, I think topic 4 and 5 can be
Sekali.
yeah. Okay, sekejap. Kalau macam tu sekarang ada 5 kan?
6.
6, okay 6. 6. So the challenges ni buat satu-satu lah. Satu group satu.
Doktor, yang the welfare concerns and reproduction, is it together or different topics?
Let me think. Wah, I rasa topik 4 dengan topik 5 combine lah. Reproduction and welfare concerns of livestock ablation.
So doktor yang tadi you cakap apa topic 6 buat satu-satu, so one group disease, one group food safety ke?
Ya betul.
Okay.
Tak apa, type je dulu, nanti I akan susun balik apa yang dah type ni. Okay, and then I letak dekat Padlet lah. Biar Afika tulis. Nanti I assign lah. I assign the groups and the topics. So it would be fair, I hope. Apa tulis je dulu. I will refine later. Or else I can copy it here, you know. Oh yeah, I can copy it. Sorry, Africa. I'll be able to copy it for you to copy paste. And then I think a final topic would be the use of probiotic in shrimp culture. So that would be the last topic. Topic 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 11 topic. Plus 10 or 11. Okay, while the script is writing that, so again, I would recap what we're talking about. So for the lecture today, we talk about a pond preparation, right? Site selection, water quality, soil quality, topography, okay? And then we've also talked about apa yang kita cakap tadi? I pernah lupa. We talk about some of the aquaculture systems. Alright, so there are 4 types. And then we also talk about, wait, let me see. Right, what are the production cycles involved? And certain production cycles can be done in ponds, right? Others would probably need an indoor tanks, right? Lastly, we also talk about the cages, right? Right, and also pond preparation, drying, and also liming. Okay. For next week, Amali, we will do a poster type. Betul tak? It's what we have agreed. A poster type, there are 19 groups. I will assign the topics to the groups on Monday. Sebab I want you all to do this during the 3 hours. Okay, I do not want you to do this after. I know you guys have, a lot of things to do. I do not want to burden you. So we will do as much as we can during the 3 hours that we have. And then I will leave you all for maybe 2 hours, enough or not, right? 2 hours probably enough for a poster that you will do in groups. And I will pick one representative from each topic. Depends. I will just randomly pick those who are selected. Will need to talk and present your poster and share with us your poster. Is that okay? So we take that 1 hour. So one group, 10 minutes enough, right? 10 or 15 lah. 10 minutes enough lah, I think. Because ada 9 topics kan. Oh, not enough. Wait. Do it in 7 minutes. 7 minutes or so. I do not know. I like the number 7. Okay. So it should be comprehensive. It should be brief, but it would be able to deliver the gist of the message of the topic lah. Okay. So ada soalan tak? Pasal anything? Any question?
Doctor, for the presentation, meaning it can be just the representative from the group, right? Not everyone has to present, right?
Up to you guys. Whoever you want to present. But you know, if somebody has already presented so many times in other subjects before, if you want to choose somebody who's timid this time, why not, you know? You know, when I was a student, I was a very timid person. So when I met the dean, the current dean now, so he asked me, he told me, he asked me lah, Diana, are you this type of person, very timid, you know, do not talk a lot? I say, not really, maybe, you know, you kind of warm up to people kan. So sometimes it takes practice to talk in front of people and to be confident. Maybe not so online kot kan, maybe in real life. Even the you know other professors, you know, if you ask them before they go to class, they would say, you know, they're nervous, same like us, you know, they are nervous. They also need to prepare. You know, you would think that the professors, you know, they know everything. You know, they come to class with whatever that they have because they have been teaching it for so long. If you ask Prof. Sharif, he updates his slides or PowerPoints for every class. So he updates the information, update the knowledge, whatever that he reads. So update it into his PowerPoint slides. So everything needs preparation, needs to read. He's also, you know, Prof. Sharif maybe tak lah, you know, some other lecturers. Um, you know, they have that certain anxiety or stress or, you know, they're scared, you know, that's normal. So if you want to choose somebody who you think, I don't know, it's up to you guys. One person, maybe two is enough for a 7 to 8 minute presentation. Okay. Whatever that you can do in 2 hours is enough. Okay, I do not need you to cover everything in the world. No. Okay, what is important only because I want you guys to learn together and I'm also learning. That's why I said, you know, shrimp culture is not my forte. I do not know. I've only been to 2 shrimp farms. Memalukan kan? Lecturer ajar macam shrimp culture tapi pernah pergi shrimp farm 2 kali je. But that's the reality. So you ask other lecturers, they are teaching things that they are not, you know, not well versed in, but we learn along the way just as you do. So I hope you take this next Monday as a learning opportunity to share your the knowledge that you have. I have nothing else to say. What I will do is I will update the topics. Number one, I will update my slides and put it in Padlet. Just before 10 o'clock, I will also update the topics that you will present. I will also select or pilihkan which groups will do which topics. And I will give you guys 2 hours. The last hour, 12 to 1, we will have a presentation from representative groups of the topic. So not all groups will have to present, but I want you to be prepared and maybe just 1 or 2 people from a group. Is that clear? All right, nothing else to say. I'm sorry that I did not record. But as I've said to those who email me, my slides are self-explanatory. Exam questions will come from my slides only. If there are any critical thinking questions, those are the things that I'll maybe talk, but I did not put in my slides, but it will not go beyond what we talk about. Okay? Kalau tak ada apa-apa, I wish you very good Friday, very good weekend. Have a nice day, have a good lunch. I hope to be able to see you guys soon enough. Alright, bye-bye. Nothing from me. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you,
Kejap. Topik.
Thank you, Doctor.
Let me copy first. Alright, kejap.
Saya dah copy juga, Doctor.
Apa doktor?
Topik dekat chat tu. Siapa yang buat letak kat
Nanti
Alex
I forward dekat ketua kelas.
I dah copy, Doctor.
Okay, anyone just